Mogale City Mayor Tyrone Gray joins us now. He has appealed to locals not to target people just because they are foreign nationals and are suspected to be zamas operating illegally at abandoned mines in the area. The mayor joins us now. Very good evening to you, and thank you so much for taking the time to us. I'm hoping that you had an opportunity to hear what Tyrone was saying, that they are not taking the law into their own hands. They're doing what is necessary to keep their community safe by helping the police in what is their perceived or actual failures.
Hi, yes. Her interview was slightly faint from my side, so I couldn't hear all of her inputs. I was unable to hear some of the answers to your questions. However, I believe that in relation to today's events, more reference is placed in the Kagiso area and Seoul City, where there were actually instances of vigilante justice. I was on scene, on the ground, assisting, and I actually cut my hand. However, Tyrone wasn't in that specific area today. If she was, she would have seen that there were instances of vigilantism. What was originally intended to be peaceful did decay. There was a loss of life. And secondly, I had to personally intervene on community members that had so severely beaten a foreign national that he was bleeding profusely. He was stripped naked. He also had a rubber tubing tied around his neck and was being doused with flammable materials. We then intervened and got him into the police van and took him to Laratong Hospital for medical treatment. I then engaged with the community, calmed the situation down, and told them, guys, I know you're ventilating your frustrations. However, let's do so in a high disciplined and respectful human dignity in life. After all, regardless of a person's nationality, they are still human beings, they are still people, and they deserve to be dignified in a dignified manner and treated as such. So thereafter, after that intervention, some of the foreign nationals that were apprehended were simply apprehended. I said, no more beatings, no more vigilantism. We don't want violence. We understand your frustrations as a community. And thereafter, the operations were in a more controlled, collaborative and smooth method.
Let me ask you this question. The socio-economic conditions in South Africa, they are obviously causing strife amongst people. It's causing great levels of desperation. There are scant resources. Do you believe it's possible for people to be able to coexist with foreign nationals who are economic migrants to this country because they possibly face the same conditions in their countries? But the important thing here is that crime is crime.
No, indeed. One of the major challenges South Africa faces is the triple threat still remains, that of inequality, poverty and unemployment. That's why it's so incredibly important to localize supply chains and build cyclical economies. We need to take control of the entire value chain. Indeed, one of the problems with South Africa is it has a very much primary focused economy. So for instance, what's meant to happen is, let's take gold ore, for instance. It shouldn't be exported for smelting. We should capture that entire value chain from the primary to secondary to tertiary production so that mining doesn't only terminate in the export of the raw ore, but further capitalizes on, for instance, the end user products such as jewelry or catalytic converters, etc. That is something that national government is going to have to attend to.
And what is the risk assessment, particularly in your area, of the global supply chain and the kind of difference that you can make from a legislative point of view that you think could help alleviate the challenges?
So in terms of what we're doing locally in Mogale City, we already have an approved recommendation that we will start the localization of our supply chain. What I'm simply saying is Mogale money should be spent on Mogale-based businesses. So we're in the process of also promulgating the township economic development bylaws, which will then declare certain areas special economic zones that can benefit from necessary rebates to assist those businesses in those areas, let's say from Kagiso, from Manziville, Shamdor, Baltonia, Factoria, to assist those businesses in the area, and then also start coordinating all of the businesses so that one person's output is another person's input. For instance, we have Majestic Oils, and their output can then be facilitated into agri-processing so that animal feed in the area is a lot more cheaper. And then this will also assist in the meat market or agricultural produce to be decreased in its price.
We were speaking earlier on with Dr. Dale McKinley, who's a political economist, who's saying South Africa can learn from countries who've faced similar challenges to do with illegal mining. So the due diligence processes, the implementation thereof, it's clearly something that we need to learn from, but also aligning in terms of the mineral regime for global best practices. What changes should we be making immediately? And I'm not talking mid to short, long term.
Well, I think one of the immediate changes is to hold those mining houses to account who have made profits and not done the due diligence, and now it's the people and environment that suffers. Immediate unlocking of the rehabilitation funds needs to be given down to all distressed mining towns. Mogale City is one of them, but it's not limited to us only. The zama issue faces areas from Benoni to Merifong, Fochville, Carletonville, Randfontein, etc. Within the Gauteng space. And then we should also have a collaborative and hard look at how artisanal mining can be regularized. For instance, are we going to follow a permit structure, a declaration of yields? Are we going to have an adequate, proper database so that we are aware of not only the volumes of production, but also who is operating in which spaces? And I believe we can actually start the rehabilitation process and use artisanal mining to safeguard the environment, but also safeguard those actual activities and the residents' lives.
Well, thank you so much for speaking to us. That there is Mogale City Mayor and Tyrone Gray.